This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics, joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Good to see you, sir.
Good to be seen, good to be here, as always.
I know, it is. It's always a good way to get the week off to a start.
You bet.
All right.
Off to a start, necessarily a good start, but Monday does get the week off to a start.
I appreciate your particular attention to words there and
Well,
understanding that construction.
That's my business, and if you make a
But
rare...
it's a good week. It's a good start to a good week. That's going to be my attitude.
Good.
All right.
Good.
Is that going to be yours?
Always.
Okay, good.
Somebody called me a curmudgeon over the weekend, and I said I was just about sick and tired of being called a curmudgeon.
That's right. I'm
Which
going to
is
start
funny.
referring to you as an eternal optimist.
Yeah, which is, the irony was, I act like a curmudgeon in arguing that I'm not a curmudgeon. Anyway, enough. Go.
Let's begin with your column from Sunday's newspaper, a
Oh,
very
good.
Little Rock-centric column, but we have seen some activity at the Little Rock City Board. Mayor Frank Scott gets through a proposal he has to close some municipal golf courses. You expressed some skepticism, but also some pat on the back. Walk me through your logic of what you are seeing happen with this mayor.
You always ask me every Monday, would you explain what you were trying to write on Sunday? And I don't think that's what you mean, but it's what it sounds like. I had not been clear on the particulars of the proposal, and he made them clear. And in the end, I fully embrace what he's trying to do, even though, once again, I am on the outside of my own gender and generation. As he calls them, the seasoned brethren, which is
Older people.
Preacher talk for old people. And a Little Rock native male in his 60s would, by demographics and by obvious, predictable behavior, recoil against the idea of changing something so basic as the War Memorial Golf Course. I mean, when I was a kid, that's the only golf course I could afford to play. It was close, and it was par 3, and the only thing I could possibly hit were short irons. I didn't know how to play golf, but I could manage them enough that I'd actually would make a bogey sometimes, which was a big deal. And I haven't played in years, but and then to drive through Fair Park Boulevard, wend your way through this place in the shadow of the stadium, and have to stop at a pedestrian crosswalk for people to pull their carts across in their spike shoes, going from, I think, 16 to 17. That's just a part of our Little Rock. As a budget decision, it made no sense for the city to subsidize 4 golf courses. As a generational decision, War Memorial is a vast, beautiful, green Eden in the middle of the city, sort of our central park. And budget, it's a logical budget decision to close 2 of those at least. And War Memorial is one of the logical ones to close. It was losing money, and it is positioned to be a place that could be, as he calls, reimagined, repurposed. He uses words like that, for a variety of family and community interests and activities. And I wasn't clear on exactly how this transition was going to be, and he said, we're just going to close it because we can't afford it right now, but we're going to keep it mowed, and maybe we can have some disc golf or some hiking trails, but the long-range plan is to get public-private partnership, corporate sponsors for maybe some gardens, maybe expand the zoo, maybe do any number of things.
And you buy into that vision.
I do,
Yep.
I do. Now, a lot of people of my generation will say, oh, come on, it'll just be a bunch of homeless people in there, or they may have some sort of prejudice that enters into their thinking about it, and they're negative about the prospect. But I think, I get this generational change that Scott talks about. His victory was not entirely a matter of race, of black vote. It was young people looking at a new kind of Little Rock, and I think this represents that kind of change. And if Little Rock can't hope and try, then it's really in trouble. And imagine this beautiful green expanse which links Hillcrest on the north with 630 and South Beyond. Even Senator Will Bond put on social media, maybe if we could open up a walking path all the way to UALR to make UALR more a part of the city, make it more visible. And these are great dreams, great visions, and they'll be hard to make materialize, but I support the vision. I support the dream.
I like it.
All right.
All right, let's shift our attention to international politics. Point blank question for you here. Are we going to war, the United States? Are we going to war with Iran?
No. You want me to elaborate?
I do. Why do you think we will not go to war with Iran? Tom Cotton, Senator from Arkansas, advocating for it. Donald Trump apparently goes right up to the brink of calling for strikes to happen and then dials it back.
Donald Trump is, forgive me, he's all bluster, all hat, what is it, all hat and no cattle? He's all bluster. He's all bluff. I said on here a couple weeks ago, he's a poker player who's got a whole lot of money and a big expansive personality, and he's going to sit down, he's going to talk big, he's going to deal the cards, and he's going to have nothing, but he's going to bluff his way, and you can either fold or not. And he made, this thing makes no sense. He says that early in the day, he apparently said, go forward with the planning. And he didn't know until time to say go, release the planes to take off, to ask, will there be any fatalities? And there would be 150, he was told, and he made the decision. I believe he is anti-war, anti-intervention. I believe he is mostly concerned about himself and getting reelected, and if he starts a quagmire in the Middle East right now, that complicates that equation. I also think he likes, again, as I said, to be the firefighter, to be the arson who puts out his own fire. And we've seen it 3 times in 2 weeks over Mexican tariffs and over the war and something else.
I'm pretty sure it was Korea is what it was.
Right. And it just, he makes a bold, no, we're going to round up and deport all the undocumented people next week. And then he says, oh wait, we're not going to. Nancy Pelosi says she's got another idea. He puts out this bluster with certainty, and then he walks right up to the edge and anoints himself as the savior. I think it's largely a tactic. I also say he's not really the arsonist who starts the fire and puts it out, but he's the guy who really never starts the fire. He just lights a little kitchen match. And he says, I'm going to start something on fire here in a minute. And then it starts to burn his fingers, and he goes, oh, and puts it down. That's what I think he's doing. So I don't think he's going to do it. I mean, if he's forced into it by some heinous provocation, yeah. But not this. The remarkable thing is this story we're being told that we're about to do it, and at the last minute we didn't. I wonder if we were ever going to do it. I once told the nation, Bill Clinton's got a lot to offer as president, but he's very indecisive. He once vetoed a bill and then had a state trooper fish it out from under the door so he could scratch out disapproved. I said, you can't fire missiles and then get them back. Trump is showing that you can pretty nearly do that. He says he has risen indecisiveness to his very essence. So no, I don't think that's going to happen.
There were 2 media interviews that he did in the last week, one with George Stephanopoulos, one with Chuck Todd. A lot of news kind of came out of that in terms of a myriad of headlines there, but I still question whether or not it changed the political dynamic at all with Donald Trump in terms of perception of the public. Despite all the numerous headlines, was there anything in there that any opponent's going to use against him that they didn't already have an arsenal of things to use against him? What's the point of being, I guess, for him to have avoided those harder hitting interviews versus Fox News when the consequences really aren't there no matter what happens?
I think that's what he's learned, and I think the truth of the matter is he wants to give these interviews because he has this mistaken sense of his own persuasiveness, sort of like a preacher in that way, that he thinks, just let me get on there with Chuck or George, and the rest of you, Sarah, you've done okay, but man, I can do better. And Miss Conway or Kellyanne, let me do it myself. He has that kind of attitude. And then he just talks fast, inundates the screen with the same kind of bluster that we see, and nothing changed. We see the Stephanopoulos thing was 30 hours with the president. We're hanging out with him. And we learn that, yeah, he's what we thought. That's the way he behaves. The Chuck Todd thing on Meet the Press yesterday, I will just tell you this, anecdotally. I turn it on, and he's interviewing Trump. And Todd's trying to ask a question. I'm not a big fan of Chuck Todd anyway. He's trying to ask a question. And Trump is leaning forward and talking over him. And I said, I can't deal with it. Mute. I do not have time for what I know is being said there. And then when they went to the panel and he asked, I unmuted it, and Peggy Noonan is saying, this politics by our president of harem-scarum leads to a point in which the public becomes averse to him. And I thought, this one just did, just what you're talking about.
You were the perfect illustration of that.
I think people are just weary of listening to this barrage of largely meaningless braggadocio and general verbosity.
Does that bode well for a Trump re-election?
No, that was Peggy Noonan's point, and I didn't used to be a fan of hers, but she tends to say some smart things. She said, there are a lot of people in the center who will look at the economy and they'll want to be for him, but they're going to be thinking, if he keeps giving these interviews, they're going to be thinking, I can't take 4 more years of this. They want somebody who's a little more circumspect. You know, he managed to tell the Iranians, hey, I'm afraid to attack you. That's the signal he sent. Hey, we were going to do this, and I chose not. Everything is too public, too indiscreet, too much. And I think that is a net political loser for him. His base loves it, but he needs more than that to win the election. And I think there's a quotient of that electorate in the middle that is concerned, that's just fatigued.
Yeah, fatigued is a good way to describe it.
I'm not sure Joe Biden lessens that fatigue that much. But
well, and again, it becomes a binary choice at some point in time, and we don't know who the other choice is on the Democratic side, and that will be one of the things that we'll have to watch. All right, he's John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat.
We're off next week.
We're off next week
for the
July 4th holiday, and I'm taking a vacation.
Well,
so
you've earned one.
I think I have.
Congratulations on your 20 years.
I appreciate that very much. So, congratulations on your 49th year.
I became a part-time sports writer for the old Arkansas Democrat in December of 1969. So in December, it will be a half century.
Wow.
You believe that?
Congrats
How about
to
that?
You.
All right.
That's all for today's Talk Business and Politics. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.
You'll find us at the end of a lot of long country roads, covering over 60% of the great state of Arkansas. Our 17 electric distribution cooperatives are working day and night to provide reliable, affordable power to over 500,000 homes, farms, and businesses, just like yours. The Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, your local energy partners.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.